Welcome to the weekly Pick and Pack, the podcast about all things inventory. Pick and Pack, powered by Fishbowl.
All right, welcome to the weekly Pick and Pack. This is episode 5, and my name's Nate Flake.
I'm the other Nate.
And we got two awesome guests here today from development. I'll let you guys introduce yourself.
You bet. I'm Benson Clough. I'm the VP of Development here at Fishbowl.
Cool.
And I'm Andy Johnson. I am one of Benson's developers here at Fishbowl.
Okay.
He's great. We like him a lot.
Is he all right? He's like pretty decent.
Pretty
Okay.
good.
Can I give my endorsement of Benson before we even start?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think I was talking to you, Nate, the other day when I said I don't even know Benson that well, but if there's like one person at this company that I had to rely on, like life or death situation, I'd probably have it be with Benson,
Benson's
That was
legit.
very
It's a
nice.
good choice.
Thank
That's
you.
a good
I mean,
choice.
Thank you.
which is probably, I don't know, kind of a knock on everyone else in
Yeah,
this
thanks,
room.
dude.
Sorry,
I mean,
but
I share an office with you. That's all right.
I know you too well. Maybe I just don't know Benson well enough.
He's like, I know what.
No, he's that good. He's that good.
Yeah, if you ever have a flat tire, just let me know.
Done.
Benson's like
Happened like
super
2 weeks
handy.
ago, unfortunately.
We'll get into the kind of his background. I mean, he's had a background in construction as well, which proves useful when we need to hang
Just a
things.
catch-all.
So we're talking about project management today. So, and kind of how that relates to the SMB space, not only for inventory, but also implementing different project management software, different cool like tools you can use for people that may not know what options you have out there, right? So let's start with saying. So give us how long have you been doing project management in general, and that can include like your time as a contractor or things like that.
Yeah, so it's probably been about 10 years, and in software for the last five
Okay.
years, project managing.
As far as those, I mean, it's completely different, or like, is there a lot of overlap in those two industries?
There's some similarities. There's some differences. Yeah, I mean it's all an iterative process, right? You're
Yeah.
getting things done. You bring stuff in. You accomplish that goal, that task.
Yeah.
You move on. So there's some similarities that way.
Yeah, I know we have a lot of clients actually in the construction business, so we'll come back to that in a little bit, but that's probably super interesting as well to see how like actual physical projects are done as well as not only, technology or tech projects as well. And then Andy, what about you? How long have you been in, managing projects, team lead, things like that?
Sure. Yeah. So I have a kind of I don't want to say checkered past, but I do have a
Sketchy.
Colored
sketchy
past.
past. That's better. That's much better.
Let's go with that one.
I've got maybe a colorful past. I've had experience with a lot of different types of projects or businesses that I've been involved with. So currently, as a software developer, this is I feel like this is my safe place. There's so many moving parts when it comes to all different types of projects. And one thing that I love about being a software developer is it's contained. The things that I can control are contained, and I can focus on those things and solve those problems, one at a time. And I get a lot of help with that from a product manager or a VP of development like Benson that has, his responsibilities are a lot wider. He has to see a lot bigger picture than I do. So definitely enjoy where I'm at currently.
Yeah. So when you say contained, you mean within like a certain scope, or what do you mean by that?
Right. Yeah. So, stories that I'm going to work on, they're going to be defined, and usually they're well defined. So, if something goes outside of that, then that's something that I need to take back to, if I run into a problem and it's outside of the scope of, what I'm trying to accomplish, then that goes back, and there's a process where we discuss it, and Benson, sometimes the whole team will discuss it, how we're going to move forward to solve this maybe problem that's bigger than we originally thought it was. So, but again, that it's not my decision. It's not when I run into the problem that's bigger. It's not just up to me to fix it, no matter how big it gets.
Yeah, you can take a Benson or someone else on your team that has that channel
Yeah,
or whatever it is.
so we take it one bite at a time. Every problem is just one bite at a time.
Got it. And before you say you have a checkered past is what you use.
Colorful, yeah. Mhm.
Colorful. Sorry. So before you worked here,
Forget the preferred terminology. Apologies.
as a as a software developer, what did you do before that? I know we spoke a little bit before we started recording about your time at like Color Factory and managing that in
Right.
San Francisco, right?
Right. Yeah. So that was a project that I took on. I was actually at Fishbowl, and it was a friend of mine that had started this pop-up museum in San Francisco that had become sort of wildly successful over the month and a half that it had been opened. But with it, they were selling out, in a matter of minutes. They would
Yeah.
open up, sell tickets for a month and a half, and they'd be gone, within an hour. And it had just turned into a real beast to manage for somebody. She's a creative type, and this was a really creative project, and she really had nothing in place, no infrastructure in place to handle, the type of customers that they were having on a daily basis. So it had turned into something that, if she could have walked away from it, she probably would have. And
Yeah.
she needed a lot of help in managing all of these
The day-to-day
day-to-day issues and problems.
logistics. I'm sure it's a
employees
nightmare.
not being the least of them, just having
Yeah.
reliable employees. So, like I said, I have a business background, and she's somebody, or I'm somebody that she trusted. So she brought me out to run that and put processes in place that made it something manageable for her. And that was something I was able to do over a 6-month period.
Yeah.
It did bring in, I definitely didn't foresee all of the issues we were going to encounter, but I saw a lot, and we were able to tackle those and sort of make them bite-sized problems that, I could solve, or,
Yeah.
people that were employed by us could solve.
How much of that translates into what you're doing now? Not a lot or a lot? Or
Well, as a software developer, I mean,
Yeah.
not a lot, but other than I have a lot more respect for somebody like Benson, or somebody that
Yeah.
does have to take on, that's the catch-all for, a myriad of
Projects.
problems that arise in any kind of project. So
Okay.
I think there's a lot of similarities between these physical projects and software.
Yeah.
I mean, we try to do everything we can, not only here at Fishbowl, but other people I've talked to bring the physical in. I mean,
Yeah.
you use software packages to make tasks or cards or stories that you can physically see, and
Yeah.
and you can break up software into those little bite-sized pieces. Some of the teams here at Fishbowl, they use actual index cards to make it a physical thing they can track.
Okay, and they use like different color codes depending on whatever system they're using. I've seen those. What softwares, you mentioned softwares, what softwares would you advise somebody that has either just getting into the project management world, or somebody new that's just like, managing a warehouse or whatever the project is, whether that be, product development, QA, like there's tons of tools out there. What are your favorite ones?
So there's a lot. I want to back up just a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a methodology in software development called Agile that we practice here at Fishbowl. And there's a lot of different tools around that methodology that you can use. And we use a lot here at Fishbowl. We are kind of broken up into teams, and teams can kind of self-organize and figure out what solutions work best for them.
Yeah.
One thing that we've used on the Fishbowl Online team is Meister Task. It's a task board, a Kanban board that you can add cards on and task out. A lot of those also integrate with your code base. So Jira is a good one that integrates with your code base, so you can track issues and things like that through that software.
How does that work? Like integrating with your code base, what does that mean?
So each of
Sorry.
our
I hope that's not derailing it too much.
you
I
don't
just
know
am
what
kind of
code
curious.
base is, Ron?
Sorry.
let's talk after. No, I'm just kidding. So
Don't fire me, please.
Let's talk after.
You have your code in Essential. They call them a repository, where you can check in code, you can check out code, put it on your computer, edit it, check it back in. And a lot of times those task cards that are associated with your check-ins aren't really connected, but Jira will connect up to that, and you can see, hey, they made this change in the code, and this is why, because it points to this card on this tracking software.
Got it.
That's really cool.
So so that's specific to software development, right? Do you guys use any that somebody that manufactures heavy machinery could use or may use?
They could still use like a Meister task or something, right?
Yeah. It all goes back to that methodology. Like if they wanted to practice some of the same techniques in Agile that we would as software developers, they
Yeah.
could do the same thing. Like they have hey, this is our backlog of things we need to do to make this heavy machinery. this is the next part we need to do. So this is the in progress or the WIP part of
Yeah.
of our manufacturing process, and they move that task over there, and then when it's completed, they put it in the completed. So they could use a lot of the same stuff. I don't know a lot of those
Yeah.
tasks. Maybe Microsoft Projects would be a good one.
Yeah.
They get a
Projects or-
Gantt chart that
Yeah, we
shows
u-
them how long it takes to build stuff.
We use Trello as a
Just
department.
internally, yeah.
But I mean, it's pretty generic. Like it's out of the box, right? Like you can basically customize it for whatever you need, but not very specific for like I don't know how you use it in manufacturing. Asana is another one that I've used. That's a
I
little
mean, it's
more
pretty cool the
intense.
fact that you can like, I don't know, assign cards out, right, and
Yeah.
put like a due date on them and track actually how long it took or how far beyond the due date they did that or checked it off
Yeah.
or whatever. At least I don't know.
That's a big one with Jira because you can get like your velocity because you can put like how long it's taken in there and give it
Yeah.
effort points and
Cool.
things like that.
I think with Microsoft Projects, you have the option to do the same thing where it's like, or tasks, I don't know, whatever it was called. But yeah, you can put in like, I started on this task at this date, at this time, took a break here, started again here, took a break here, finished here, and you can like track how long it's taking you to do all these different tasks.
For sure.
So
I've never used any of the Microsoft projects, but I think it's funny though, as going out on site. And again, we've talked about this in previous episodes about Nate and I's background is doing implementation and kind of doing different consulting roles, I guess, for different companies. But it's funny how many people don't know what tools are out there that are free, right?
yeah,
When they're like, oh yeah, we use this bulletin board to assign so and so projects, and then we write it here, and then it's on like this like carbon paper stuff, you
Right.
know. And then it's
if it's even that organized, usually it's just
I
like
know.
word of mouth and like, oh, that person just always does this, so that's just what it
Yeah.
is.
I got
And
an
if we
I
lose
got
that
an
person, we're
email at
screwed.
one point saying I need to go do this or something.
Yeah, exactly.
and that's like the only way they track it. And I don't know if it's I mean, I guess I can't attribute all of it to age, right? The boomers, but we can't.
Okay, boomer.
Okay, boomer. Those memes are too good, dude, honestly. But a lot of time it's just like, yeah, they're not used to a process, and like, yeah, we don't want to spend thousands of dollars on a system. But you're like, well, yeah, Trello's free actually, and
Yeah, I
For
think a
your
lot of it
small
has to do
teams.
with like, especially with the manufacturing space or whatever too. It's like not everyone's in front of a computer the whole time. You know what I mean? So it might be best to have a giant board up where it's literally a physical thing that you're having to look at and someone's having to adjust because they're not in front of a computer. all
yeah,
day.
people are more especially like warehouse in manufacturing
Yeah,
workers, right? Where I guess I've seen that's true.
yeah,
Where they'll have like the iPads kind of installed throughout the warehouse.
yeah. Which is
Which-
more and more common. I feel like,
Yeah.
or like I guess that's kind of outdated almost now too. Like,
Yeah.
it's, right, if you're not doing that, do it.
Because we have you can use Fishbowl time. So
Yeah.
call me after about that.
I think we have. There's a team at Fishbowl, right, that they still use 3x5 cards, and they're not using software
Yeah.
to track this stuff. They still use. I mean, it's still agile development, but something about having that physical card works for that team. And so
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
as long as you have some system that's working.
Doesn't matter what it is. as
Yeah.
long as you-
I'm
It-
old
it
school in
can
that
be.
way. I like having that physical, like
Yeah.
something I can touch or like check off physically
Throw
or
away
throw away. Be
after.
like, I did it.
Well, it accomplishes a few things, right? Like a digital board, you can just you can go on forever, right?
Yeah.
Like keep adding all these tasks in, and then you can get overwhelmed. Like on a physical card, there's only enough space on there to write like the very important details, and then
a good point.
you only want to carry around a handful of them, right? And
Yeah.
so that's one of the reasons why they
No, that's
still
cool. I
got
didn't realize
commitment.
that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then
makes sense.
they also have that passed on. This is probably off topic, but like the support team or like different departments can pass them cards, right? They can come and say, "Well, make a card
Yep.
with the bug or the issue, or whatever it is."
Yep, and they do a really good job to make sure they write the person's name down and the customer that's impacting and things like that. So that's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, in Benson and Andy? So, what are you, in your opinion, like what are some of the top challenges of either product managing or project managing, either or?
What's the difference, by the way? Side note.
Project and product managing.
Yeah,
The difference between those two?
either one.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh,
I totally like sidestepped here, but I'm
no,
curious.
you're good.
No, you're good. I think they're pretty synonymous. I mean,
Okay.
a product's something you would probably package up and sell. Like
Yeah.
you're building that product. A
Okay.
project could be more service based or things like that.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
Could be like a single feature on a software,
Right.
or
Yep.
a piece of content that the marketing needs to put out, and that's going to be a project, right? Or
And I think you
ebook or something.
handle them pretty similar, right?
Yeah.
You're still
Yeah, makes sense.
putting your processes against either one of those to come out with an outcome. One thing that I find is a big must is to have. You guys talked about this on, I think, one of your first podcasts, is a product champion. Like when you go out and do a training, you have to.
You did listen to the podcast.
I did.
I'm so proud of
I
you.
did. You have someone that's in charge, right?
Yeah.
And if you have one of those people, then everything's going to go better, right? Someone that's vested in having a good outcome of an implementation in your guys' case. Same thing with a product. You got to have someone that's invested in knowing all the ins and outs, and someone that the team can go to make sure that they're doing everything the way that they're supposed to.
Yeah, and it probably starts. And I mean, we talked about this a lot in school and stuff, obviously, but like defining scope, right? Mm-hmm. So if you don't have a defined scope from beginning, that's not too crazy, but also obviously defined, then you probably have people that are going off the rails, or like. It's like what Andy, you said at the beginning, is you have to have it be contained, right? Like your job is very contained, and you know exactly where kind of your boundaries are and what your responsibilities are. It's probably the same thing in a project, right? Like if you have to be very specific, probably especially in the development world.
Yeah, we call it scope creep when
Yeah.
you go outside of that
Yeah.
scope, and it happens all the time.
No, it'd be easy to do, I feel like. Yeah.
Yep. This would be just so nice if we could do this, or this will make it 10 times easier, but sometimes you got to get that minimal viable out there
before you can start working on the detailed stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What about some other challenges that I've seen, and add your own, but like resources, not having enough, having too many, having people that you're not using because you have too many resources sometimes, lack of accountability maybe, where you don't have defined roles as much. What are some of those challenges with either, lack of resources is pretty cut and dry, but accountability, like how do you set up, project comes in, walk us through what you do as a project manager, how you disseminate the information, how you assign stuff out.
Yeah, so we handle it we have a few different checks and balances in place. We have a couple meetings. We have a meeting a couple times a week where we go over what everyone's doing and make sure they have the tasks they need to do. They know what those are. And we have our company demo where each week we demo what we've worked on to the whole company.
Yeah.
And so that's a good checks and balance. We can say, hey, we're accountable on Thursday morning to make sure we show
Something.
the company some progress
From the week before.
in what we've been doing. Yeah. And then we're not super good at this, but daily stand up and getting on the same page.
Yep.
You talk to that, Andy?
What's that? Yeah. That's actually what came to mind when you talked about these challenges, because you talked about scope creep, and I've had issues where I'm working on a problem and you can really get into the weeds, and that's where a daily, maybe twice daily, even stand up, where you have to take a break. It's mandatory, and everybody stands. It's meant to be, quick. But it's an opportunity for you to talk to people about where you're at, what your challenges are, what you're stuck on, if you are stuck, and to, if somebody might have some insight that would help you. But it's also super beneficial for me as a developer during that stand-up. It gives me a chance to reflect on what exactly I've been doing for the past 4 hours. Like, have I been productive for the last? Because you don't. I mean, the day can fly by, and you're like, wait a second.
I haven't done one thing.
When I
have those all the time.
When I unpack this, like, what have I done today? Like, this is So it's definitely a habit. It's a important habit to have in development, and I think in projects in general, to have that chance to take a step back to see where am I at, and is this really the most important thing that I could be working on right now? Because priorities, we have limited resources. We have finite time to work in each day. We have only so many developers, so it's really important that you're always working on the thing that's the most important at that time.
Do you guys do it at the beginning of day, end of day? When do you do the
So ours are typically
stand-up? What do you call it? Stand-up huddle? What do you call it?
Yeah, it's a stand-up, just a stand-up meeting. We do it at the beginning of the day. Some people, it's whenever schedules align best. And I think 10 o'clock is a time that we typically settle on, because it gives us a chance to get in, start working on something, and at least we know where we're at. We know where we were at from the day before. So we're completely, at that point, we're ready for the day. We're ready to be working on whatever is in front of us, and then we can talk about, what we'd been working on the previous day, and talk about what we're, planning on finishing or getting through that day.
Yeah.
They call them stand-ups because they're supposed to be short. Right?
Yeah, you're standing the whole time.
You're standing the whole time. You don't want to be in a meeting. But it's good to sync up. I think especially like you brought up building houses. It's kind of the same thing. You kind of get there in the morning and you figure out what everyone's going to be doing, and then you come together at the end of the day and make sure everyone got it done.
So you do a couple.
Yeah, I think it's important for me as a developer. Like I said, there's reasons why it's important for me, but it's also really important for a product manager like Benson that understands what everybody's working on, because he might hear me say, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm working on. And he might say, oh, I didn't realize you were working on that. This thing's more important. Like, let's put a pin in that, and let's focus on something that he might see as being more important at that time. So I think it's really valuable to a product manager to have that time, with the team and understand exactly where they're at.
Instead of going 6 days working on something that Benson's like, you should have done this.
I was going to say, instead of Benson being like, why have you been working on this the last 8 days, and I asked you to work on this 2 weeks ago.
And we're pretty unique here at Fishbowl. I know it's not a Fishbowl. We shouldn't be touting it too much, but we do, right? All of our product managers sit with their team and with there's QA for each of those as well. So they're all way close together and conversations happening all day.
Yeah.
That is
You
really
recommend,
nice.
you obviously recommend that, like, as
Yeah,
a
for
plus,
sure.
right?
Yeah. I don't know if I'd recommend everyone sitting in an open space, but I do recommend teams sitting together.
Close together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been on a couple trainings where the product manager is like not even in the same building,
Right.
And they're coming in, not even once a day. Sometimes it's less, right? They'll be checking once a week, and they come into the manufacturing for either the the QA space or the final procurement space or whatever it is. Checking, I'm like, that would drive me nuts. I mean, I'm pretty OCD, but I would want to be closer to the action a little bit,
It's tough. So in a previous life, I was a project manager for a healthcare system.
Yeah.
And so that's all the projects that I was managing, basically. It was the team. They were all like heads over departments or heads over entire hospitals or whatever, right? And so super busy people with a lot of things going on that I obviously had zero authority over.
Yeah.
But I was still managing things that they were tasks that they were supposed to accomplish. And so check-ins, if they happened once a week, that was lucky. And like they had to be over the phone because they were spread throughout the state. They had to be like once a month. We could do an in-person meeting, but even then, half the team was missing most of the time.
Yeah.
It just was really difficult to stay on task and on, just to make sure that everyone was accomplishing what they needed to.
Yeah.
And like it was really essential that communication was like constant. So yeah, I can imagine that being all within the same vicinity and within just shouting distance would make it really easy.
What did you guys use at that? Like, it was where everyone's remote, basically, cities around the state, right?
All the Microsoft stuff, basically. Like we used Skype and stuff to call every once in a while, but really it was just phone calls back and forth between me and other people, and then
So you didn't all
emails and-
use like Trello. Like, it was just like basically email, and that was it.
again, it was healthcare, so we're talking like if anyone used email, I was lucky.
They're sending like.
So I tried
faxes
to
still.
I tried to use that Microsoft project, and it actually worked pretty well to like print things off and take to meetings. But as far as like checking tasks off one at a time and actually expecting them to do that every time they did it, good luck. There was no chance. So
Crazy. That's wild.
anyway, sorry, that was like a kind of a sidebar again.
No.
I'm derailing us all day today. Just trying to keep everybody on their toes.
As far as other challenges, anything I didn't mention, in your opinion, what's number one?
Just making sure you have the right resources is good.
Right people, right amount of people.
Make sure that people know what they're trying to accomplish, and make sure that everyone is on board with what the stakeholders want in the product you're building.
Yeah,
So.
that makes sense.
Yeah, I like that.
And for somebody that's in product sales, or that's we have a ton of clients in the e-commerce space, right? That's probably, I mean, most important for them is to make sure that they're getting a product out on time. It's a little bit different than software. They're make sure fulfilling orders and things like that. So, what advice would you have? I mean, I know you haven't probably done the hard product side, but as far as fulfilling things and making sure things are churning for a project manager that's over purchasing or sales or something like that, what advice would you have for them?
Just take it one step at a time.
Yeah.
Just like Andy said, get the most important thing done first. With whether that's Like I think of shipping in a warehouse, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be shipments that come in that are you need to get out right now because they're next day, or get those done first, and then just chip away at one at a time.
Got it.
Be task oriented,
Yeah. It's so hard to do, man.
right?
Yeah, I think as long as you're communicating, I mean, that's what it comes down to. Is
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
if you're communicating, if there's open communication and everybody understands where everybody's at, and that's what these tools are all about, is communicating to your product manager, communicating with your coworkers, communicating with your team, then everybody knows where everybody's at. So and there's a lot of tools for that, like we talked about. But
Slack's
I
a
think-
big one.
Yeah,
We use
Slack's
all
one
the
that we use
You
all,
guys use
all the
Slack
time.
for communicating.
Mhm.
Have you guys ever had to do any custom stuff for any of, and not even Fishbowl clients, but end users as far as like product? I mean, I think our custom plugins team probably does this a lot with companies that want custom integrations and things like that. What advice? I think one thing that the people listening to this may find useful is what advice do you have for an end user that's like, hey, I need, they think they need a custom integration, or they think they need a custom plugin to manage their projects better, manage their flow or their product or whatever it is. Like, where do they start if somebody thinks that they need something like that? Like, do they search and try to find a software that works first, or do they?
Yeah,
It's from a
definitely-
developer. I just think it's super interesting to get your take, because a lot of time, especially on the implementation side, we would get like, oh, we need a custom system. We need this and this and this built out through Fishbowl or whatever the software was. And they didn't have any idea, like from the developer standpoint, what that means in terms of cost and in terms of time.
Right. It's definitely cheaper, more affordable to find something that's already built, that's out of the box that you can use. The biggest piece of advice I'd have is make sure that your needs are voiced. Make sure you're reaching out. We have a bunch of different avenues that our customers can reach out to us and ask for something.
Yeah.
Make sure you're voicing that, because a lot of product managers, especially in software, will kind of take record of that and store stats on what's asked for, and then that becomes priority, right? And if you need it, then someone else probably needs it too. So the more
Yeah.
you upvote that or whatever that is, then the more likely it'll get into the product.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
I think the better you can define that too, what it is that you need that plugin to do, the more it's defined. So if you're doing it manually, do it manually, and really get the process down so you know what pieces need to be automated. Benson actually does a great job. He uses a tool called Zapier, right? And there's some like little tasks or things that when something happens, he doesn't want to go check constantly, what's going on with our server. If there's if we have to spin up new servers for one of our products or, whatever it is, he's got a bunch of, he can probably speak to it better, but, he's built out a bunch of rules. And when these things happen, it triggers a message on Slack. So we all, the people that need to know, get a notification, and it's all automated. And that's a tool.
That's cool.
That's a cool kind of a plugin that he just, built with third-party software that's available and free for anybody. So.
Yeah. What is exactly it do? So you said Zapier, right?
Yeah, it's like an if this then that. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
For businesses. So you can link a bunch of different services together, and if something happens in one of the services, it triggers something in the other one.
It's really cool. I didn't know that's what Zapier did.
Yeah,
Really?
it's super cool, super good solution for a lot of things. But like what Andy said, try to do it all manually first. I think a lot of people make a mistake of, hey, I need to automate everything right at the beginning,
Yeah.
and
Spend
maybe
a ton of
maybe
money.
Yeah, spend a ton of money. Maybe suffer through it for a little bit, get your processes down, and then you know exactly what you need to spend the money on.
Yeah. Does Zapier integrate? Sorry to come back to Zapier. Does it integrate with like Salesforce and like all the major like CRM, inventory management?
Yep. So for a while, at the very beginning of, we made this product called Boxstorm, which
Yeah.
is online inventory management.
Yeah.
Lightweight. We would use it to tie it directly into our database, and we would create our CRM records from that.
Fishbowl doesn't use it though. Interesting. That's cool.
That's cool.
Never heard of it. Yeah, I'm actually gonna check that out and see if we can do anything in our apartment.
So I'm sending messages to ourselves when people sign up for our software, when they start paying us. It all just pumps into Slack, just so we can kind of see
Yeah.
how often it's
And
happening.
you could probably do that with Outlook too, right? Like whatever kind of messaging or communication platform you're using, whether it be Slack or
Yeah, for sure.
another one.
Mhm.
I don't even know any other ones besides Slack. Slack's too good.
Slack, for example.
Or like maybe like
Slack,
Skype. Yeah.
Skype, Microsoft Teams.
They have a lot of
MSN
different-
Messenger. Does
MSN
it do that?
Messenger.
Still does
Oh,
that.
oh,
I'm just kidding. I have no idea. There's a lot of
That's just
different
a flashback.
options though.
That just puts us in the ages us a little bit. Okay, couple more questions for you about skills somebody needs. So and this is for you, Benson. So you're managing your team. How do you negotiate, or how do you kind of navigate the relationship between your team and then the uppers or the powers that be that are giving you kind of the marching orders? And how often do you meet with them? I know you guys do huddles daily on your side, on your team side, but what about your director or your manager?
Yeah, so it's kind of unique relationships we have here.
Yeah.
I meet with our CTO on a daily basis just because we're in the same area.
So
right?
close, yeah.
So we don't have to have long meetings. We have 5 to 10 minute catch ups, and we make sure that we're on the same page doing what we're supposed to. Our product managers meet with the CTO once a week in a formal meeting for about an hour, and we go through all of our roadmaps and our backlogs and just what's next on the horizon, make sure that's up to date. We also publish that so that the rest of the company knows what's next, what's coming up. So
That's cool.
it's on a weekly basis
Yeah.
formally with our CTO.
And then and then kind of the second question to that is how, as a project manager, how often are you trying to do one-on-ones with your team? You do your daily huddles. Do you ever have to do one-on-ones?
We
Don't ever do 'em.
Don't do them very much. We should do them more, right, Andy?
We have like our team right now.
And it's like, I'm good.
Well, honestly, I think we used to have them more often. Like, but the longer we've been here, I think we communicate, even outside of work, we communicate enough that if I have an issue, if there's a problem,
walk
if there's
up to
something,
Benson.
it's pretty informal. Like
Yeah.
I can talk to Benson about any
Yeah.
issue. So I think we still have those. We still have that, one-on-one communication. It's just not a formal, hey, let's go into this office and have that communication. So.
Yeah.
Usually that's a bad thing if we have to
You're
go
like,
down
hey,
to it.
come downstairs. Don't tell anyone. Are you gonna? Have you seen different? Andy, this is more for you.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to answer in front of Benson. No, but
is
you've
off the
probably seen
record.
different managing styles and stuff. What do you prefer? The informal, like probably informal, formal, different styles. Benson's obviously we've already learned, very reliable, very
Yeah.
approachable.
Trust him with your life.
Benson's great. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, for me, the best thing is a balance, because I get along. I mean, I'm a social person. We all are social beings. So I get along with people. I like to have camaraderie with my employee, with my boss or
Yeah.
whoever's, giving me my orders. So Benson does a really good job. I mean, we have that kind of informal relationship, but at the same time, he's clear on expectations. So I think it's important that you don't just become a friend. As a product manager, it's easy to, and maybe I think I have this tendency. I think I've had this tendency in the past in different roles where I become friends with somebody, and then it's difficult for me to say, hey, I still really like you, but
I have an issue.
we have an issue. Like we're just, productivity wise, whatever the problem is, it can be kind of tricky to get into those kind of subjects. So I think as long as you can maintain that, the ability to have those conversations still, then I think it's great to have a friendship and that kind of relationship with the people that you work with.
On the other side of that, Benson, because you're really good at this, and I think a lot of people at Fishbowl are really good at this.
I was gonna say I feel like we have a really good management
Culture,
style
yeah.
here. Yeah.
How do you walk that fine line between friend and like, hey, get your shit done?
I come in every morning and say, I'm going to be your boss, and if you need a friend, talk to Granger. No, I'm just kidding.
Bitches.
You just have to get in there and do stuff with them, right? Like I'm gone from my desk a lot, but when I'm there, I try to figure out what they've been working on. Sometimes it might be kind of annoying to like, hey, what's going on? But
Yeah. Hey, what are you working on right now?
right, but I try to show that I'm interested because I am. I mean, that's it's kind of like my head's on the line, right? Like
Yeah.
you got to get this done, and you just be with them and work with them hand in hand.
Okay, I like it. 2 last questions for you guys, and we want to start doing kind of more of these segments as far as like every episode, kind of trying to ask the same questions, because I think people are super interested in. I mean, Fishbowl, we do inventory management. We kind of see a lot of different companies, different processes, tons of different industries, tons of different verticals.
Mm-hmm.
What is the kind of, from all your time at Fishbowl, your role as a developer, even firsthand or secondhand, what is the kind of like craziest story you have from a warehousing side? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about it.
Just
And
trying
then
not to
same
drop
for you.
names too much. you know?
Right. I
Yeah,
I was an
keep,
on-site trainer for a while. Right,
Yeah,
when I
yeah.
started. Right, I did a handful of on-site.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I came on as support. I was a trainer for 2 years.
Dang, dude, I didn't know that.
My craziest
Did you know that?
my craziest experience. I went to Belize, and we had a. It's hard not to drop names.
I know,
Like,
right?
How big is Belize?
I
Right?
know.
Um,
We've got a large listening base in Belize, so I'm glad you're not going to drop your name.
there was a shrimp.
Shout out to all our Belize listeners.
Shrimp manufacturer down there, right? Huge.
There's
shrimp
probably
production.
only one, too.
Right, right. And it was kind of crazy because we got there and they picked us up from the airport and we went into this. We rode in their van for a few hours.
Are you solo on this trip?
Me and Jason.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Which Jason was actually one of our episodes. So if
Right.
you have been listening,
I didn't get to that one.
yeah, he's I don't know,
3.
episode number 3.
Episode 3. I looked at all of them.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Looked at the synopsis anyway.
right.
Yeah, someone's right.
So we get there and there's like these armed guards at the gate and like we had to stay in their compound all week and
Like you slept in
Yeah.
like dorm rooms or what?
they had like mobile trailers on site that all their workers stayed into. Like
That is wild.
everyone just stayed there.
They don't
and
want
then-
anyone taking shrimp off
I've only
campus.
seen that once, but anyway.
And they used Fishbowl to track these big ponds of shrimp that they were growing, and like every time they fed them, they had to land cost into every time they would put feed into these big ponds and all the partial harvests and full harvests. So it was pretty crazy. It was a big operation.
Did anything crazy happen when you were
wild.
there, or besides just being in
Well-
Belize and living on compound?
Was it a legal
What happens
operation?
in
I hope
Belize,
he's
right?
I hope he's not listening, but we
I mean,
went,
how long
went
ago
to
was that?
Dent.
8 years ago?
It was like five,
Oh,
6
fine.
years ago. We went to dinner the last night, and they got a little tipsy, and I offered to drive back, and they wouldn't let me. So
Oh, you're just
me and Jason were sitting in the back, just swerving. We were fine. We weren't drunk, but they were hammered, and we were just holding on for life.
that's wild.
That was crazy.
Playing with your prayer beads in
And
the
you,
backseat the whole time.
you don't speak Spanish though,
No,
but Jason does.
yeah.
So was the whole thing in Spanish?
A lot of the
What were you doing there?
He
So-
was the face of the operation.
the guy that was in charge of implementing Fishbowl at their company was from Florida.
Oh,
so
okay.
Jason did a lot of the training for the workers in Spanish, but like I worked with that guy to get the database set up and everything working
That's
right.
wild.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's a,
That's way crazy. And yeah, you didn't start in training.
I did not. No, I don't have.
Have you never been on any trainings?
No.
Okay.
No, I've
Do
not.
you have any secondhand stories?
I was
or
going to
anything
say
like that?
in other
About
in your the rest of your colorful background, you ever had any weird instances with I don't know.
pertaining to project management.
pertaining to project management.
Like, what's the craziest thing that
Um,
happened at Color Factory?
So I don't know. I mean, we had. There was. It wasn't an incident, but we had a basketball player try to get in, and he. It was actually Sean Livingston playing for the Warriors, right?
Okay.
And you couldn't get a ticket to Color Factory. It was like just sold out. And
Yeah.
this guy tried to get in, and the girl didn't know who he was, and I was like, I had been there and I just gone off to get some dinner or something, and I came back and she was just in tears because she had told him, "Well, I'm sorry, we don't sell tickets at the
And he's
door."
like, "You don't know who I am."
Turn away. Yeah, he
Oh,
was.
no.
He was not happy.
Did she say, "Hey, when you start, you can have a
So-
ticket"?
Yeah, I was like. Yeah, I if I would have been there, of course, I would have solved that problem. But yeah, it was actually, I don't know if it was the same night. If it wasn't the same night, it was the next night. We had a group. So we pile through thousands of people a day come through this, and they're just kind of going through these different rooms,
Yeah,
their
taking
experiences,
pictures.
and taking their pictures and selfies and posting them. And we had
As we all do.
Yeah, we had a.
I know
I mean, this
Benson.
was some chaos. Just
Avid.
just
Sorry.
because so we had a group. There was a set of stairs. You start in the basement, you go through the basement, and then you go up these stairs, and it's like actually one of the most photographed areas, this pink staircase, and there's this pink neon lights in there, and people take all these pictures. But there was a family, and it was a big family. It's a big group, and these were big people, and they decided we're taking the elevator up, this is an old building. It was an old elevator,
old warehouse,
and these
right?
people, it was a retail. It's like a 10,000 square foot retail space, split over 2 floors, maybe 12,000. But it was, but these guys got stuck in the elevator, and the alarm's going off, and they were like over the weight limit, and fire department had to. I mean, I don't know how to deal with that. So
That's not in your project
yeah, I
management
was like,
experience.
that's
Very good at delegating.
Yeah,
Delegate that to the fire department.
there was a lot of calming the kids down, calming everybody down. The parents were, I mean, it was kind of their fault. There's
100%
warnings
that's their
on there. I mean, there's a sign not to use the elevator. There's weight limit signs in the elevator.
Surprised they all fit.
Yeah, well, yeah, they were. It was tight, and but eventually the fire department came. They were able to get the elevator up and get them out. and move
How
on.
long did
But,
it take to get them out?
I mean, they were in there for a good. I would say it was pushing an hour, maybe
I was going to
45
say
minutes to an
that'd be
hour.
really
That's
uncomfortable.
claustrophobic.
And it's
Yeah.
this is summertime. It
Oh, no.
it was warm.
San
I mean, it's-
Francisco, right?
Yeah, it was warm
with big people.
with big people. So yeah, wasn't ideal.
So my wife was stuck in an elevator once, and she still has some PTSD.
Oh,
Like we'll get in an elevator sometimes, and she'll tell me the story like I've never heard it before.
yeah, I got stuck in an
Every
elevator one
time
time.
in the elevator.
It's happened before.
Like I've never
But-
heard it before. All right, we're gonna wrap it up with an inventory tip. We do this every episode. I don't think we did last episode, so I guess not every episode. But a couple tips on hiring the right warehouse manager and a couple things. This is the list I came up with. So I mean, I've seen hundreds of warehouse managers. It will make or break a product company, right? Like you can have an awesome product, you can have an awesome marketing team, but if your warehouse manager doesn't have have everything on lock, it's bad news.
Yeah.
The stock out's not, you're not forecasting properly. You're like Benson said, you're not getting orders out in
Spending too
priority.
much, too little,
Yeah.
anywhere in between.
So anyways, a couple things as far as traits, and this is actually from our blog on the Fishbowl website. The traits that they came up with, technologically sophisticated, right? Being able to get on some of these softwares, being able to adapt and implement new systems, meticulous, authoritative, organized, and the last one is calm under pressure. Anything to add to that list?
I feel like that's just management 101.
Yeah, dude.
Warehouse management, any
I
kind of
guess I could
management.
go really across any type of project manager, right?
Yeah, and you got to know your product really well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. Educated. All right. Well, thanks, guys, for being on the episode. And
Yeah, appreciate you guys coming in.
Thanks for having us.
it's been
Sean
great.
Livingston, if you're listening, welcome to the real world.
Yeah.
Sorry you couldn't get in like everyone else.
We'll let you in a fishbowl. We'll let you take a tour.
Come on through, buddy.
So subscribe to the podcast. Again, we're on all the major platforms: Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. I think a bunch more, Castbox, a few different ones. Anyways, subscribe and share it with your friends, and we will see you next week. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.